Hey everybody, I wanted to take a look at my Yamaha wave runner that I've got set up for fishing. Um, it's a 2002 Yamaha XL700. So it's a very small engine, 700cc, two-stroke. I've had it since about 2003 or 4. I think I was the second owner of it. Been a real good ski, giving me very few problems. Still runs great. There's a few reasons that I wanted to kind of convert this into a more of a fishing setup. Number one, we live on a lake that's got some excellent fishing on it, and wanted to be able to use this in the off season when our boat is in storage to fish off of. But number two, we wanted to be able to just kind of take it out with relative quickness and ease and kind of fish when I wanted to, rather than have to pack the boat up and put everything in the boat. So this is kind of the best of both worlds. It gives me good speed, good access to anywhere that I want to go on the lake, but it's also got some features that make it a real nice fishing platform. There were a couple things I wanted to make sure that I did when I set this up for fishing. Number one, I wanted to make sure that any modifications that I did to it were relatively temporary. And most everything that I've done is temporary. I can take it on and off in a few minutes. The only thing that's relatively permanent is the Garmin mount right there, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And then I've also got a rod holder over here on this side that is screwed into the handlebars that go around the seat. They are enough out of the way where not being temporary doesn't bother me. I can still get the cover on over them, and they're not in the way if you've got somebody riding on that back seat. I'll show you the mount that I've got for the trolling motor. This is a temporary mount that I have set up. It uses a mount that is intended to be used for inflatable tenders, small inflatable boats. Basically, it's kind of turned upside down from the way it would mount on a raft, or this part is turned upside down from the way it would mount on a raft. And I have the straps looped around the bars here, and there's just two straps, and it holds it very securely. It's not going anywhere. I can stand on that if I want to. It's not going anywhere. And I'll put the trolling motor on it in just a minute to show you guys how that setup works. But it works actually very well. I was kind of surprised. I had originally wanted to put it off to the side, but because of the curvature of the back of the jet ski, there was no way to do that. And the nozzle actually shoots through the center of the two mounts there. So right in the middle is kind of where it stays, and it works out well. You can kind of take a closer look at how it loops. It loops underneath the lip of the boat, and then the tension of the ratchet straps just kind of hold it in place. This pool noodle is just to just to sort of give me some leverage when I'm mounting it on there. It's actually, once I get it mounted on there, that pool noodle is actually not necessary, but I just leave it there because it's not going anywhere. Like I said, I'll show you guys how the trolling motor mounts on there in a minute. Some of the things that I really like about this setup, and I think it's mostly because of the jet ski that I've chosen to use for it, is that I've got a ton of storage if I need it. This is my setup for my trolling battery. It just sits in the bottom of this storage compartment here. Eventually I'm going to drill a couple drainage holes in the bottom, and I've got a bilge pump that can pump water out of the hole if it needs to. This water is coming not from the lake, it's coming from rainwater that seeps in here when it rains. We had some really bad storms last week, and this is the first time I've opened it up to see what's happened. But I've got the trolling motor there, and then I got a little space for a battery. This is a battery charger, so I can plug it in just to kind of charge that trolling motor battery up. But this battery lasts forever. I don't need to charge it up. I can go for days with my usage without having to charge it up. Put that back on there. The other thing that I like about it is, like I said, it's got this bar that you grab onto, that passengers grab onto, or you grab onto if you're pulling yourself up from the back. And that bar is a very sturdy, hard plastic. And I have this rod holder basically screwed in here with 3 screws. And as you can see, it is almost flush all the way across with that. It does bend a little bit when I screwed it in, which is fine. The plastic allows a little flex to it. But I've got the 2 screws on the top, and then the 1 screw down at the bottom right there. So it's held in there. It's not going anywhere. Originally, when I had set this up, I had a screw-on rod holder, 2 of them actually, one on either side of the back. 2 things I didn't like about that setup is, number 1, they never felt sturdy to me. There's not really a flat spot for them to screw onto. So actually I lost a rod and one of the rod holders the first time I took it out. So after that I ran with one for a little while, but then I just switched over to this rod holder here, and this is a much better solution for what I'm looking for. So that's kind of the back of the boat. The only other thing that I've got on the back of the boat is, this is the cable for my transducer for my Garmin. I'll talk a little bit about that. Here's the mount for the Garmin. I'll put it in its holder in just a second. But basically, I've got the cables running underneath the plastic here, and it just runs along the side of the jet ski up underneath the seat. And it's not permanent. I can pull them out if I need to, but they just are kind of looped through the hole there, so I don't usually do that. The transducer is installed permanently, though. I had originally tried to set it up so that the transducer was on a bar that I had on the trolling mount, but I didn't like the way that was set up. It was sturdy enough, but it didn't inspire confidence in me, so I just screwed the transducer into the hull of the jet ski, and we were off to the races. I had originally had a Lowrance sonar on here, a 5-inch. This is a 4-inch Garmin. The reason I didn't like the 5-inch Lowrance was because it's a little bigger. Just never quite looked right on the jet ski. And the other reason I didn't like it is because the transducer on the Lowrance is like 3 times as big as the transducer on the Garmin. So mounting it on the jet ski felt a little off, and because the transom of the jet ski is curved, I could never mount the Lowrance transducer completely straight off the back. So there was always kind of an angle to it, so the water was kind of pushing it, and I didn't like the idea of the water not running straight over the transducer. So I have the Lowrance transducer, which is probably about that long, and it's much smaller, much lower profile, and it's almost straight. So I don't feel like it's going to be as much of a problem as the Lowrance one was. Like I said, this is a 4-inch Garmin. I'll show you that mounted on in a minute. But I can flip that mount down to get the cover on, and then when I take the cover off, I just flip it up and I can put the Garmin in there. I'll show you that in a minute. Otherwise, I've got a ton of storage up front. This is where I put my tackle and little cooler for drinks and that kind of thing. A couple things that I'd like to do in the future to this setup is I do want to see if I can find a way to mount a small cooler at the back underneath the straps of the trolling motor. I can find some that will fit in that space, but I can't get the lid up with the way the straps are oriented right now. So I had to think of something to do there. It's not absolutely critical that I have a cooler on this setup, other than a little small, sandwich cooler that I can stick up in the front of the boat. Because when I take this out, I'm only out for an hour or two, and I don't need a ton of drinks or anything like that. Let's see, what else do we need to show you guys? Let me mount the trolling motor and put the rods and all the tackle and stuff on here, and I'll show you what that looks like. I will be right back in a second. Alright, so here we are, all set up for fishing. As you can see, I got my Garmin mounted right there. That's solid, it's not going anywhere, and it just clips off on the back. Like I said, the power cables are running right there behind the thing, and this closes completely, even with the Garmin on there. That's where the latches or the hinges of the front thing came off a few years ago. So I've got zip ties holding it on there. It's probably been 5 or 6 years now, and it's not going anywhere. You can kind of see what that looks like, but it works. So here's the trolling motor mount and the rod holder with the rods in it. This is how the trolling motor sits. Generally, when I'm riding, I'll latch this all the way so that the main rod is right up against here, and then I'll lash it with a Velcro strap, and it doesn't move. It might twist a little bit, but even if it twists all the way, the trolling motor doesn't go down into the water. And then once I'm where I want to go, I just release it and drop it like that, and it, you see it does it. I'm up on the jet ski dock right now, so the trolling motor's not all the way in the water, but that's what it looks like when it's running, and that's about it. So let me know if you have any questions or anything. Like I said, this is kind of a work in progress. I've got a few more things that I want to do. I'm gonna run a plug so that I can unplug the trolling motor pretty easily. I've already bought it. I just haven't drilled a hole into the jet ski yet to mount it. So I'll put a plug on there so that I can plug it and unplug it quickly without having to get to the battery and disconnect it from the terminals. It's just plugged straight into the battery right now, but it has enough play so that I can turn it completely if I need to. It's not going anywhere, and I never turn it all the way around, so it doesn't loop around itself. That's my rod holder there. You see, I can hold 3 rods, and I can hold some lures and pliers. So that's what that looks like. And then I've got, this is where I keep my cell phone here, and other things that I don't want to lose. And the Garmin doesn't actually get in the way of any kind of instruments on the dash, because there are no instruments on the dash. The only thing on the dash is just that little oil light, and I can still see it just fine right there. That is it. Thanks a lot. Bye.